Awesome.
That was awesome.
You guys are awesome.
No,
You're awesome.
no.
You are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to Everything is Awesome. I'm Kev, and this is the show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. Now, I don't have to go into a long tirade like I did last week about this week's guest, because this is part 2 of our conversation with the man, the myth, the legend, Garrett Smith, fellow podcaster in the Philadelphia area, stand-up comedian in his own right. He's also the co-host, along with Dan Scully, of I Like to Movie, which has spun off into a live game show called Movie Live, where they do about every other month they do a themed game show about movies and pop culture. We last left with Garrett talking about Jurassic Park, Jurassic World specifically, and then got into some Kevin Smith discussion, because that is something that him and I kind of bonded over. We even had a podcast, as you heard previously, about Kevin Smith and his podcast network. Crazy, I know. So that's where we're going to pick up this week. Let's take it to past Kev and past Garrett, where we're sitting down and continuing our conversation about Kevin Smith, pop culture, horror movies. It's all in there. Anything you want to hear, I'm sure it's in there. So here we go.
I like Red State. I think Red State is really interesting and pretty good.
It took me a
It's
while
better
to
than
get on
Tusk,
board.
I think.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Tusk is
just weird
it's
as
a strange,
hell, and I love that it's so weird and committed to its weirdness.
I need to see it again. What I love about it is that, and this is all because of Kevin Smith, but it takes podcasting seriously, and it was the first thing in traditional media to kind of take it seriously.
I think so.
The next thing, the only other thing I've seen since then is the Scream television show that takes podcasting seriously.
I didn't know that. How is that show?
It is good, and I shat on it big time.
Oh yeah,
not publicly.
Yeah,
I shat on it with my friends and my coworkers. I said, "This, how are they going to make a television show out of this? They're going to desecrate Scream." Because for me, and I know this is probably a lot of people will shame me for this, but for me, Scream is like my horror movie. I mean, I was a kid when like all the.
I don't think so. I think that is our generation's sort of definitive slasher.
Because I mean, it was the '80s when the other ones, maybe even the '70s, late
'70s and '80s,
when all those other ones came out. And like for me, I didn't really start watching horror until the '90s.
I'm like you. I was more an adult when I got into horror.
Yeah. And for me, Scream is the definitive horror movie. Like to me, and I've had this argument with my manager, who is 10 years older than me, so that's the difference. But to me, Scream is a better movie than all the other horror movies that I've seen. Like I would probably rank Scream as my favorite horror movie.
Oh, crazy! I wouldn't do that still, but
and that's me. Like, if I sat down and watched a couple others, I may adjust that list real quick. But like just speaking off the cuff, I always point to Scream as my favorite.
Have you seen any of the the original slasher movies? Because I finally spent the last year watching the first movie and all of Halloween is something I'm a big fan of. I've been a big fan of that for years.
I've seen the Rob Zombie one.
Oh no! I'm talking about the John Carpenter one, which is great, and you should really see. It is one of the. I think definitively one of the greatest horror movies you'll ever see.
Yeah, I need to go back and watch those we'll call them, I guess, Generation 1 horror movies, because I'm sure I will add some of them to my list of being better than Scream.
And I'm talking specifically slashers, because what Scream is doing is really interesting and fun. And it spawned a whole generation of terrible other slasher movies, right? Like that genre almost died, and then Scream brought it back. But what Scream is doing is a commentary on that genre. Yeah. So it's interesting that we grew up with it, because we got this very meta slasher movie.
Yes.
And we loved it, even though we had no context for the meta nature of it, right? Which is how it spawns all those really bad other versions of itself, like I Know What You Did Last Summer, where it's like it's basically,
which I'm also a fan of.
Man,
like now I wouldn't say it's in my top anything, but I enjoyed it. Like it's a movie I can sit down and I haven't seen it since it was in the theater, but I enjoyed it in the theater.
I feel like those movies do what Scream is doing without the meta commentary, which then makes no sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll say yes without having seen it in probably about 10, 15 years. But
the original slashers are really good. Like I even really liked the original Friday the 13th, which I would say is probably the least of those original slashers. That is even very enjoyable, I think. Dude, A Nightmare on Elm Street I finally saw recently and is so good.
Yeah, and that your show influences me to say, all right, I'm adding this to my list to watch. And it's not even because I don't know if you necessarily it wasn't even you did a podcast on it. It's either that or when I read your
I wrote it on Letterboxd, I think.
So because I obviously, for those that don't know, Garrett's also in our organizational unit that we just created the other day. You are the manager of movie reviews, by the way. Yes. But Garrett writes reviews. We'll say for Letterboxd, but I snipe him. I snipe him for That's Entertainment,
which I love. I love that you do that.
So I try to get good SEO on it so that when people search for those movies, it comes to us first.
I appreciate that.
But your signature, I believe, has all your promos plugs in it.
Yes, it does. I thank you for that greatly.
Yes,
because I don't have to do anything for any of that.
Yeah,
I review every movie I watch. By the way, just so people know, I review every movie I watch. I do it on Letterboxd.com. Philadelphia on there. Yeah. Check out my reviews. They're great. I actually when I still online date because I'm a 30-year-old that is like an idiot. And now I tell people, I'm like, listen, you could read my profile on here, but just go read my movie reviews. You'll learn a lot more about me through those than you will on this dumb profile.
That's funny. So Garrett does some work for us there as well.
But you were talking about
the Scream television show.
Yeah,
I do want to watch that.
Dude, it's so good.
Yeah, I'm a huge Wes Craven fan, obviously.
Dude,
Scream.
You gotta see it. I'm telling you, man.
Right.
I really think it blows Scream out of the water. It is such a great horror movie.
Yeah,
it's so fun and weird and just it's scary too. It's like really scary. Like for me, Scream is not necessarily scary. It's also supposed to be funny comparatively to a lot of other horror movies. I think it's thrilling more than it's scary.
Does that? Yes, that makes sense because for me, Scream is more realistic than any of the other slasher movies, and to me, that's what makes it "quote unquote" scary.
Sure.
So, for instance, someone in a ghost face mask can be under my car or in the backseat of my car, or
100%.
Any of the deaths that you see in Scream, that can happen.
Yep.
Because it's not someone in your nightmares.
No.
And that's I've never seen Nightmare on Elm Street, so I'm not saying that to knock it, but I can, as an adult now, watch Nightmare on Elm Street and say, okay, it might be scary or it's thrilling or whatever because it pumps my heart, but that's just in the moment watching the movie. I can recognize that that's never going to happen.
Right.
I can still watch Scream to this day. And not be scared by it, but say I need to be careful because that could happen.
Right. Yeah.
There's no movie that I've ever said I'm truly scared of, except for The Strangers. That's the one movie where I could probably. I watched it with my friend who's 35 years old at this point. So he was early 30s, I was late 20s when we watched it. In broad daylight, we were scared watching it together.
Dude, you know what you should watch? Because The Strangers I don't think is great, but I think is a very interesting movie.
Yes.
You should watch You're Next.
Okay.
It's like a take on the home invasion thing.
Yeah.
That is really good. It's like I will say it might not scare you as much as The Strangers because The Strangers does have that realism element that makes it very frightening, right? Your Next is a little funnier.
Okay.
It's trying to be a little bit funny. But it is, man, is it like a fun, great take on the horror genre.
Okay.
It like Scream, it's sort of playing into your notions of what the horror tropes are, and especially of home invasion, and trying to subvert them.
Okay.
It's so good. It's the same, it's Adam Wingard. It's the same filmmaker as The Guest.
Okay.
Really, really good. I think it's on Netflix right now, too.
Okay.
Totally recommend
What's
it
called?
It's called You're Next.
You're Next. All right.
Really fun horror movie.
I'll have to watch that. So going back to the Scream television show.
Cycle back. Yeah.
No, it is good. Surprisingly so.
Yeah.
It was when I first saw The Mask, I was like, oh, come on. And I
it's
understood
like
why
a
they
little bit different, but kind of the same.
Yeah,
right?
and they did it for they were going to be charged an assload of money to use the ghost face mask. So I understand
and why
they
not
did
reinvent it, man? Like it's you are trying to. I would imagine the show. Okay, does the show exist in the universe the movies exist in?
No, not at all.
Okay.
At least not to my knowledge.
Then why not change the mask?
Yeah, and I'm fine with it, know, because at the end of the day, that wasn't what the important part of the story is.
It's just iconic. It's become iconic.
So I gave it shit for that for no reason. I just didn't think it would work on television. Now, I'm saying this, also saying that I don't know how it will work for season 2.
Sure.
But
is the season over?
Yeah, the season's over.
So
it was like a quick.
You know what basically the game they were playing was?
Yes.
And so you're not sure if they could play that game again for another season?
Yeah. The way they left the season is you may know who.
Oh, fascinating.
Who's involved?
Okay.
You may not. They kind of left it up like you don't know if the person's involved or not. But it was good. The character was it Jamie Kennedy in the movie?
He's the movie guy. Yeah.
So the character that plays that in the show is phenomenal. He's one of the best characters.
Awesome.
And he has the same kind of speech.
Yes.
That Jamie Kennedy has about horror movies, but his is more like, you can't do horror movies on television, blah blah blah, because of
Great.
And so it's very meta.
Great.
At least in that,
I love that.
first episode. But I can't say there was an episode that I watched that said, ugh. Now the deaths, there's maybe one excellent death.
Yeah.
Like one that you're like, that's awesome.
Cool.
All the other ones are more like, whatever.
Yeah. How graphic is it?
I mean, there's blood.
It's on MTV, right?
Yeah, it's on MTV. There's blood. They, it has very good cuts because the death that I'm explaining.
They're like crafty.
Yeah, because the death that was amazing.
Yeah.
You just see some blood splatter.
Well, that's did you see Daredevil, the Netflix series?
My God.
I loved it. I loved it.
So
I loved
good.
it. I loved it. I loved it. One of my favorite things is
that scene.
I assume we're talking about the same thing, which is the decapitation by Cardor.
Oh, no.
That is easily
Yeah.
one of the grossest, craziest things I've ever seen in anything.
Yeah.
And it's only that gross by the crafty cutting they do.
Yes.
Because you don't actually have to see what is so gruesome about it.
Yeah.
But you do witness it from start to finish, which is such a great creative idea to distance me enough that I don't have to be confronted with the true gruesome imagery of it, but keep me so close I have to consider what that is. That was horrifying and so well executed and kind of funny in its weird way where the assistant is slowly making his way out of the car. It was so well executed. But anyway, so yes, there is a way, good filmmaking, you can get away with a lot without having to show a lot.
Yeah, so and I don't know if I would call Scream good filmmaking. Daredevil at all.
Sure.
But it's worth a watch. It's if
somebody
you can
die
binge
every episode?
I'm gonna say yes, but probably not. Most episodes. Most episodes.
Because I would prefer that. I think actually, if that's what the show, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that would make sense to me. That's how you would do it episodically. That there's a death every episode.
Yeah, there probably is. If not, there's cliffhangers at the very.
Follow me on this. Are they Jackie Chan deaths? Now, here's what I mean. This is one of my favorite things about Scream. Is you were talking about sort of the realism of it, right? How scary it is that these things could happen to you. Because they get away with some crazy slasher movie deaths, even though it's so grounded. But they're all like Jackie Chan style, where it's Jackie Chan will use a refrigerator to fight you, and the Scream killer will use a garage door to try and chop you in half.
It's similar. It is very similar. Yeah. It's. I think if you, as a fan of the movie and a big fan of the movie, who was down on the show, and maybe because I was just so down on the show, I liked it that much more.
Yeah.
Not the best show on television, but definitely worth a watch. I mean, I enjoyed it. If you're a Scream fan, I think you'll like the show.
I gotta check that out.
Once it's up on Netflix or however you can watch it.
I'm just curious about the idea of taking that story and extending it to a format on television more than anything.
It works for a season at least.
Yeah.
I don't know how it will work.
Yeah, how do you play that mythology out for a long time? To be fair, how do you play that mythology out for more than one movie? They made 4, and ostensibly none of them are terrible. I would say.
No.
They found creative ways, I think, to keep commenting on the idea of horror movies over and over again.
Because for me, the 4th one is actually my second favorite. I enjoy that a lot.
To be fair, I haven't seen that one.
I saw that in theater.
I
want
to see that one.
Yeah, it for me it was the second best one because it kind of reinvented the genre again. Mm-hmm. It was the Scream for this generation.
Yeah.
Scream 1 is still to me the best in the series, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, I mean everything. Wes Craven's just fantastic.
He's great.
Yeah.
I mean, R.I.P. That was why I finally watched. That was why I finally watched Nightmare on Elm Street because I had never seen his classic.
And I do need to go see that for the same reason because
it's so good.
Because I would say in my mid-20s is when filmmaking became important to me. That's when I was like, I think I want to do this.
Yeah.
It's something that I found out very late in life, and
Texas Chainsaw is worth watching too. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is really worth watching.
I may have seen bits and pieces of that, but there's I'm sure it's in my queue. There's a lot of stuff.
I'm telling you, man. I think especially as a big fan of Scream, you should see the original slashers because that's a lot of what they're commenting on, and they're a lot of fun.
Yeah. Horror has been and that's why one of the projects that we're working on with our production company is a horror movie. We have probably 10 movies. That we want to do. we decided on a
I
horror
mean,
fluke.
horror is one of the best things to do as like a first movie. You can get a lot done cheaply.
Yeah.
And it's one of those genres where, as an audience, we all kind of know that it's the cheap genre.
Yeah.
And so we give a lot of leeway to things. It's interesting. It's a fascinating genre that I think is great for first-time filmmakers.
And I think almost every horror movie will probably have its audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's whether it's big or small.
Yep.
Evil Dead, cult classic kind of size,
just one of those genres.
or Nightmare on Elm Street.
People always want to see something new.
So, so that's what intrigues me, and it's part of me for what we're doing is all universe building, kind of like how Kevin Smith was almost certainly not the first to do, I guess, a universe building, but like how the Jersey trilogy, they're connected, but they're not connected.
Loose. Yeah.
Very disappointed that he went away from that. At some point.
He's bringing that back.
Yeah.
And did you read the spoiler about how he's bringing it back?
I can't believe he's doing it.
You read the spoiler.
I can't believe he's doing it.
I'm okay. I'm very okay with it. I do kind of wish he hadn't revealed it. I
wish he didn't. Yeah.
I wish I would have been surprised by that. That would have been crazy.
I'm disappointed that we know that they're in it.
Yeah.
I wish I would have gone into Moose Jaws and not known that Jay and Bob were going to be.
To be fair, here's what I think is going to be interesting about it. Is we already know there's going to be a Mallrats 2, a Clerks 3, like all these things that assumably those characters are going to be in, right? Yeah. And it's possible Moose Jaws is going to get made at least before Clerks 3, depending. So here's what's interesting about it to me is he can do what he's planning on doing. I love how we're keeping this so loose for the audience, which I would prefer to because I think people should be surprised by it.
Totally.
Even if he does what he's going to do, he could still make 1 million movies with those characters and just be like, the timeline is whatever.
Yeah, it's wibbly wobbly. I'm disappointed that he never got on board, and I remember when he first told the story, agreeing with him that it was silly about the them being Abbott and Costello meeting the Universal monsters or whatever, or the Dimension monsters.
Yeah,
I think that would have been a great thing to do.
Totally. I will say. Did you see the animated movie they made, Jay and Silent Bob's super groovy cartoon movie?
Yes.
That is one of the few, I think, 1-star reviews I've given on Letterboxd.
I don't know if I think I posted it on our site before our site crashed. So I don't think it's up there now. It will eventually make its way back up.
It was one of the few 1-star reviews I gave.
It is,
and you know how big a fan. We did a whole fucking podcast about that dude.
Yeah.
Even just from I was trying like so hard to like process like he wrote the script, so like there's got to be good jokes in it. Nope, no, there's not. It's everything is bad. Everything about this kind of sucks. And like I said, I'm the guy that likes to be like relentlessly positive about things. There was so just little to latch onto in that. For me, even as a big fan.
I think I saw your review and said, that's a little rough.
Yeah.
I may have found positive, but sitting here now, definitely the worst thing that's ever had his name on it. Even as just a producer.
To be fair, it's just it's a lark.
Yeah.
It's like I don't care that it's not good. That does not reflect to me on him or. He clearly wrote the script just on a bender, basically, like trying to have fun and be weird.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And he knew what style he was writing it for, the kind of thing Stark will animate. It feels like one of those haphazard things that was just like, well, we want to release a thing.
It was something for Jason to do.
Yeah, exactly.
It was something to keep him. Yep. And I mean, now that he has a kid and stuff, I don't think we're going to get projects like that again, hopefully.
I know. Anyway, I don't even know why I brought that up. Anyway.
It was interesting. Yeah. There's one of the few I agree that are.
Yeah.
But you know what? It has its audience. It does.
Of course it does.
It's amazing how many things have its audience that I don't find good.
Yeah. I'm trying to get one of those myself. It's amazing to me that some things do have an audience, and it's like, God damn it, I want some of that audience.
Yeah, and that's what and you do. I mean, you have
I got a nice little. I do. Like I have more of an audience, I think, than I would like to admit, if that makes sense. Because it still feels so small.
Well, you know what, and I think this may come with just podcasting in general. Because as a podcaster myself, even when I was on a show that literally got 1 million views, a day, for the 2 hours we were on.
Crazy to me.
I would say, fucking no one watches this show.
That's amazing to me. I wish 1 million people knew my opinions about movies.
And I did that was the Stabcast. I did the Zomcast, which did a couple 100,000 in an hour.
By the way, it's hilarious to me that I'm like trying to get a comedy career off the ground, and the thing that I just said reveals what I care about most. I was like, I wish a million people knew what I thought about movies.
No, it's. I don't know where I was going with that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your thought.
No,
I just
but
realized I said a really weird, funny thing.
Yeah, we'll cut that out. Okay, so make it nice and smooth.
You don't have to make these smooth, man. That's the benefit of podcasting.
And I won't, because there's going to be glaring gaps that I have to edit out. But if you know me, I don't do much editing. I'm more, because you know what's interesting, and what I wanted to do with podcasting again was be a podcaster, where you do make the cuts and make the edits.
Yeah.
But I'm very much grounded in that world of what Stickcam was, because I only did podcasting for a little bit before I got big on.
Right.
I didn't get big, but before my shows or the shows I was on got big on Stickcam, and the format was live.
Yeah.
So at that point, why do you edit? Like, why do you edit
editing.
the podcast you're going to put out? Except for maybe any glaring dead air holes. So there will be some edits here, but I like to kind of pride myself on the fact that I let the good and bad kind of out.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say for I Like to Movie Movies, Scully and I's podcast, I like sometimes we'll record for like 4 hours straight. We've had a few episodes that went really long. I don't edit at all. I never edit. And there's hardly ever a second of dead air. It never sounds like we don't know what we're talking about or where we're driving towards.
No,
We've gotten really good at you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I've been doing it for 10 years. Like I know how to have a conversation and keep it moving. And so like even when I'm having moments like this where I go like I'm trying to think of the next thing, 2 seconds and I'm in there, no matter what it is, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. For me, usually the glaring holes is when I need to take a break. Because
when you have a child that comes in. Yeah,
exactly.
We don't have to deal with that on our show.
Yeah, that's the shecky.
I have a roommate who's 21 years old that I like to call a child whenever he enters the room, but that's about it. Dude, we did an episode on Die Hard with a Vengeance recently. Which I totally recommend people listen to because we got Chris Cotton on, who's a great Philly comic and currently the co-host of Artie Lang's podcast in New York.
Is he?
Yes, he is.
Is he? Because I'm pretty sure I listened. Because
Artie Quitter, I think it's called. Artie Quitter.
Oh, is that his name of the show?
Ring bells. Yeah. Maybe it's a new show he's doing or something.
I know I think it's a paid
podcast.
Might be. It's kind of like what Anthony from Open Anthony's doing, where it's paid. But
so Chris Cotton, he's a Philly comic, or originally was. He's in New York now, but he co-hosts Artie Lang's podcast. So it's one of the best episodes of our show. It's really, really funny.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I listen to all I do is listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say I remember anything because a lot of times I'm doing something. So
of course.
It's just noise in the background.
I know. We had my roommate Mecky, who's 21, on the podcast, and
because I don't remember this part. I don't remember. That at all.
So Chris said something about like, there's a few movies my wife and I can watch that are just like both of us love it. Like there's very few, but both of us just love these movies. He's like, Die Hard with a Vengeance is one of them. I don't know what it is. My wife and I love the shit out of this movie. We watch it over and over. He was like, Teen Wolf is another one. He was like, can't explain it. Teen Wolf, me and my wife, we love it. And Mecky goes, yeah, that is a weird show. And we all turned to him. We all turned and we were like, you mean the MTV show, Teen Wolf? And he was like, yeah, it's really weird. I don't get the concept of that show at all. We were like, it's based on a movie from the 80s, right? And he was like, no, I don't. It's okay. I only know it as an MTV show. It was the most horrifying realization of my age that I've had.
Dude.
Oh, my God.
And it's so weird because this is the thing. Like, this is what I talk about now with people. It's like, I'm fucking old. Like, I'm only 31.
There's kids watching the Scream TV show that do not know that's based on a movie. That was what that made me realize. Because I knew I was getting older or whatever, but like I never and remakes always make me a little uneasy or I feel weird about them or whatever. I try not to because it's like whatever, you can still make a good movie. Who cares? I try not to prejudge anything, but I do feel weird about them from time to time. It's like, why are you remaking that? What are you doing? And now I know why. Because there's a whole fucking generation that doesn't even fucking know that thing existed before they make the remake.
Exactly, and that's it blows my mind like that. I never watched the Teen Wolf show because.
Why would I care? It's not even a movie I like that much.
Well, I love the movie. It's
fine. I didn't grow up with it, to be fair. I know about it because it was around when I was growing up, but I think I watched it on Comedy Central once in an afternoon.
Yeah, I guess because I'm a couple years older than you. I guess.
Yeah, you are. You're about 3 years older. than me, I think.
So that's one like Back to the Future and Teen Wolf were movies that there were summers as a child that I watched. Just day
Back
1
to
was
the
Back to the
Future
Future.
was mine,
Day 2 was Back to the Future 2. Day 3 was Back to the Future 3. Teen Wolf was thrown in that mix. I don't know. I guess it was because it was the guy from Back to the Future. Teen Wolf is very near and dear to my heart. Not as much as Back to the Future. And it's funny. I was actually thinking about this, listening to Colin Trevorrow. Is that his last name? Trevorrow?
Trevorrow. I don't know how you say
on
it.
that Jurassic Cast podcast, saying how like for kids, like there's kids whose their defining trilogy is the prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
For him, it's Star Wars. For me, it's Back to the Future. And I was sitting there thinking about it, like, man, what happens if they were to ever do something with that? Whether redo it or do a sequel to it, like that's something that, as someone who wants to be a filmmaker, like I want to get good at it because I want to. If someone's gonna do it, like I want to treat it right. Like I know I'll treat it right because that's what he did to Jurassic Park. Like you know, I think he said Star Wars was his, but there's a generation of kids, and I would say that Jurassic Park is one of those movies that was for me a defining movie in my childhood. But that's
Back to the Future for me, for sure.
Yeah, Back to the Future. I mean, I have a bad memory now, and I'll blame wrestling for that. But you know, there was a time where I could probably repeat that movie line for line.
Dude, we did an episode of Movie very early on the first Back to the Future, and the intention was, this has never happened to us before or since. The intention was we would talk about Back to the Future, the whole movie, because that's always what we do. We spent 2 hours talking about the opening 10 minutes of Back to the Future and decided we couldn't continue doing the podcast about the whole movie because we had already spent 2 hours on the first 10 minutes. Because I truly think it's one of the best movies ever made.
I agree.
And part of the reason is it is one of the most definitive versions of Show Don't Tell. The opening 10 minutes lays out every single piece of information you're going to need to watch the rest of that movie, and it's got all these inside jokes that it's setting up. It's very Edgar Wright in that sense. It's crazy the amount of storytelling that's done in the opening of that movie. It's absolutely insane if you really pay attention to it and watch it, and that's why if they're going to do another one, like a remake, a sequel, whatever, you have to find somebody that cares about it, like I care about it, and know that that's a lot of what that movie is.
Yeah.
It's an Edgar Wright movie. It's layering it. It's knowing what your whole story is and then rewriting your script 5 different times to make sure there's as many references all over the place, visually, not in dialogue, to let people know what's going on and to overtell the story through jokes in the background and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, it is, and I agree. Like that is, if you know, I have never sat down and said, let me put my list out on Front Street. Like I always kind of just vaguely say, oh yeah, it's in my top 10, and there's probably 100 movies in my top 10 that I always talk about. But I mean, I think I can definitively say at least the first Back to the Future is probably my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, it's not my favorite movie of all time. I want to say it might crack my top 10 somewhere in there.
I could probably say top 3.
Yeah,
for sure. And that's where, like, you know, top 3, top 5, it's hard for me. They'll always fluctuate. But I, you know, thinking about that movie, it is just such a defining part of, like, the defining part of my childhood. Like, I distinctly remember days.
That's why I wanted to skateboard when I was a kid. Not because skateboarding was cool, because I fucking loved Marty McFly sketching behind a Jeep.
For me, I was never into skateboarding. I, in fact, have always loathed skateboarders. But that scene, like, that was always cool to me. Like, the idea of, like, if I had a skateboard, that's what I would do.
Yeah, behind the Jeep. Love it.
I like, for me, the manure gag is something that I love. That gag in all the movies.
Manure.
Like, that's just something that, you know, now talking about it, like, I have to throw it into a movie because I just love that gag.
Yeah.
You know, it's so good. It's why I love time travel.
Me and Dan love doing Tannen voices. We love doing Biff, Griff, like any of the Tannens. But our favorite line, we always, like, if there's ever a point where you could reference this, you absolutely should. If you're in conversation and somebody says something that just this strikes your memory, use this. It's the most fun thing to say is, since when did you become the physical type? It's the best.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
And you know what's, it is incredibly wild to me that, like, we're where that movie is.
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird that we're living.
I mean, literally, where it's 2015.
Yeah, and I think October 26th.
Yeah, I think that's
the
date.
Official day.
Yeah.
It is weird that we now have reference points, and it's weird how they got some things right.
They
like
had 3D movies,
television, 3D movies. Maybe not Jaws 26.
This is hilarious. We didn't realize this until we rewatched Back to the Future 2 for our podcast. When they get to the future city, like right in the very beginning, they're like in that back alleyway where they put Jennifer in a trash can. That's how they solve the Jennifer problem. They just they knock her out and put her in a dumpster. It's crazy. But next to the dumpster is all this trash from the memorabilia store that Marty will later buy the book from, and it's laser discs. It's all these laser discs being thrown away, and it's like, they are all getting thrown away. That's funny. Like,
that's good. Yeah, it is amazing what they got right, and it is. I mean, Colin, director of Jurassic Park, he said it. I mean, it is a near perfect movie.
Oh yeah.
And for me, I enjoy all three of those movies. I know.
I do too.
Like a lot of people give the third one some shit.
Yeah, I think the third one holds up. I think the problem with the third one is it doesn't necessarily hold up as a Back to the Future movie. I think the third one does kind of hold up as its own movie, though.
I
if
enjoyed
that makes sense.
Because that's how I feel about Crystal Skull. Let's go to another big franchise.
Yeah.
I think as an Indiana Jones movie, it is piss poor.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's a shitty Indiana Jones movie.
But it's not necessarily a shit movie.
No, if you say that Harrison Ford is playing Charles, or whatever, like it's just some kind of action hero, it's not a bad movie.
Yeah,
but when
it's okay.
Yeah. But when you put aliens in that mythology or anything from that movie,
I don't even care about that. I just think that movie doesn't quite play the same way the other ones do.
It doesn't. And I had a friend, argue that I had like the sound effects like the other ones did, but that's not it. It's just it wasn't Indiana Jones.
Yeah. There's something lacking in it. I can't explain it, but something.
It is hard to explain, but for me, it is. You can say that if you take Indiana Jones out of that movie, it can still be Harrison Ford. He can still wear the same outfit. Just don't call him Indiana Jones. It's not a bad movie. Like you can watch it and say, all right, that's a good Sunday rain flick. That's how I feel about. And I think we've had this discussion on Academic Nerds. That's how I feel about Wolverine Origins. Is that it's a good Sunday movie.
I don't know about that.
It's a movie that I
have a harder time agreeing with that.
I can watch it. And I'm a big comic book guy. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm a big.
I think that movie has sequences that are certainly great.
It's a movie that if there's nothing else on a rainy Sunday, I'm willing to watch.
I think that's literally the only reason I would watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I own it. It is. For me, it still ranks better than, and I think you have a different opinion on this. Ang Lee's Hulk, I'm not a fan of.
I mean, I'm not a fan of that movie. I would tell you that I certainly like it more than Origins.
There's parts of Origins that I don't like compared to that movie, but just I don't know, Ang Lee's Hulk, I can't get behind. Like,
there's stuff I like in that movie.
I don't know. I think it's all the transitions for me.
I don't mind that. I like that he tried to bring a comic book to life on the screen in that way.
It was cool at first, but to go through the whole movie doing it is what bothered me. I kind of like that.
You know what's crazy about that? This is interesting. The way he had to do that. Okay, so think about this. Like if you remember the transformation to Hulk, it's very similar. It's like he tries to lay a comic book page out on the screen and give you like 4 or 5 frames separated by panel layout, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's all these different angles of Eric Bana like transforming into Hulk. They had to film that many times for that many angles. So Eric Bana had to give that crazy Rage Out to Hulk performance that many times to get all of those angles. So every time you're seeing him do that, first of all, I like it because I do think it's an interesting way to try and bring the comic book page to life on the screen. I think many other people have much more successfully figured out how to do that. Scott Snyder probably being the best example of that, where you just sort of take a panel and sort of animate it as accurately as possible, right? But Ang Lee was kind of one of the first to try and do that, to try and bring a panel to the screen, and that was his decision to do it. Maybe not the best one, but I think it's interesting and it works. It's actually a pretty interesting, crazy filmmaking thing to do because you have to get these actors to give these crazy performances almost identically from a series of angles, and some of them are some of their biggest moments in the movie. Kind of interesting, you know?
I'll have to rewatch it because there is a lot of movies that I say are horrible.
You go back and rewatch them, and you're like, with a little more perspective, I don't think this is terrible. You know?
And for anyone that doesn't listen, anyone that's listening to this that doesn't listen to your podcast, probably not that many, but listen to I Like to Movie because that's where or even read your Letterboxd reviews because you are, just like I said, like with Mike, very critical of, more so than I am at least, of movies, and it does open up a new perspective to things where I'm either like, and I don't know if I would change my opinion of the movie, but recently on your Black Mass episode talking about Blow, I'm not a fan of that movie.
Oh, no shit.
No, but I think I was in a bad place in my life. I think I was like 16, 17 when that movie came out. And I was like, there was just something going on in my life at the time. So I remember there being a bad experience with it. And every time I've seen that movie, I'm just like, I don't like it. I can't watch this.
It certainly glorifies that lifestyle to an extent. And I think that can be problematic. And I think a certain type of person can really brush up against that. But I think that movie has some great performances and is truly a very exciting, funny movie that tells a pretty harrowing tale. And I think that's a unique thing. I think to pull off that tone and succeed at telling me both things about that story, kind of unique, kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can go back and watch it. I just have such negative energy towards that movie that I don't know if I'll ever go back to watch it. But I mean, if I was going to, it would be because of what you guys said, because you guys talk so highly of it. I'm like, I just remember it being dog shit. Yeah. And it's not because of anything but my attitude at the time as being a teenager.
Sure.
And being in a emo-y mood, probably, if I had to guess.
Yeah. No, I recommend seeing that one again. I think that movie's pretty good. It's got some great performances. Paul Rubens is actually really good in it. Pee-wee.
Pee-wee Herman.
Yeah. He plays a great character in it.
He's a great... I've seen him.
He's a fun character actor. And I'm so excited we're going to get more Pee-wee soon. That might be somebody knocking on our door.
Come on in.
Come in.
Hey, buddy.
Do you have a favorite movie?
Careful your head.
You got a favorite movie, don't you? What's a movie you like? What do you like? Hold on, we're going to get a microphone in your face for some of this.
What's your favorite movie?
Ninja Turtles.
Which Ninja Turtles we talking? Oh, you're going to have trouble explaining. Movie one. Now, you don't mean the new one, do you?
No, he's not. He hasn't watched that.
Okay. So you mean the one where they have to go to the farmhouse?
Yeah, that's the one
right?
you watch.
Remember
or do you like the Secret of the Ooze one?
Do you like the one with the ninja rap? Do you like the one where they rap at the end?
With Toka and Razor?
Toka and Razor? The scary turtle and the scary wolf guy? Yeah?
I think that is your favorite one. Or do you like the cartoons better? Don't. We can't understand you with the finger in your mouth.
Scary?
The scary one? The one with Toka and Razor? Yeah?
Yeah, he's the rhino.
No. The rhino is Bebop. Well, that's Rocksteady, and Bebop is the warthog, the pig.
That's from the cartoon, right?
And they're in the new cartoon, too, right?
I'm pretty sure the new movie is going to have Bebop and Rocksteady.
Yeah, Sheamus from the WWE is Rocksteady.
Interesting.
And I forget his name, but he's a comedian is playing. I
really?
believe it's a comedian playing Bebop.
Interesting.
I forget his name.
Yeah.
Have you seen the new Ninja Turtles?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
That movie. Okay, I don't want to entirely crap on that movie because it's. I could totally see kids liking it. To me,
my nephew loves it compared to the 90s.
To me, it's clearly like a mess of a movie that was almost remade clearly to me like a few times in the making of it. To me, I feel like I can see a much more adult movie that's like sitting in the heart of it somewhere that they started to make and then haphazardly decided halfway through they had to get to the Nickelodeon audience. What's that?
You want to hold it?
Okay. They have to like then halfway through making it decide like, oh, we actually do want the Nickelodeon kids. The what? What do you got? Nothing? You don't have anything? Listen, man, if you're going to hold a microphone, you got to talk to me about something. What do you want to talk about?
You know how when we do our show, what do we call it? Kid Chat? You know how we do Kid Chat, and I say, what do you want to talk about? And then you talk about something?
Let's do a couple minutes of Kid Chat with me.
All right, you want to do an impromptu Kid Chat?
Can you do a Kid Chat? Will you do it with me? You need the headphones.
There you go.
Well, don't eat them. You got to put them on your ears. Don't worry, we're going to get this worked out, and then we're going to do some Kid Chat. I'm going to talk into both microphones really quick, which will be really annoying to the listeners. And then I'm going to hand my man Trey this microphone.
Intro Kid Chat.
Yeah.
How do you intro Kid Chat?
Telephone.
Say, welcome to Kid Chat. I'm Trey. Hold the microphone off.
Telephone.
So say welcome to Kid Chat. I'm Trey.
Telephone.
Oh, don't mumble, man. This is a terrible show. People hate the show already. They'll love it if you just use real words with me. People will love it.
Just like you do with Daddy.
Telephone.
Styrofoam? Is that what you said? That's what you want to talk about? Styrofoam? Do you know what styrofoam is? Was that a yes or a no? This isn't visual, kid. You got to use that voice.
Don't put your mouth on my ear.
Yes.
Yes, so you know what styrofoam is. So, what do you use styrofoam for in your daily life, Trey?
Pee.
Pee?
Pee? You pee into styrofoam cups? Yes? You pee into styrofoam cups?
Let's use your words.
Yes.
Yes. Is that because you find toilets complicated? No, you don't find toilets complicated?
All right, so where were we?
Oh, man, I have no idea. That's okay. I think that's fine.
So, all right.
How do we wrap this thing up and get out?
The thing we did is I have no end to the show.
Yeah.
In my head, the concept was like maybe we end the show with your awesome thing, but your awesome thing we talked movies, we talked.
Yeah. I feel like my.
So for me, like what I define your awesome thing as is podcaster.
Okay.
Because to me, that's how I know you. That's how you and I were introduced.
Yes.
So I always think you as a Comcaster. Ooh, as a podcaster.
Yeah. I like that. I appreciate that. I will say I like to movie. I like to movie is the best thing I've done. I think for sure. It is of a level of quality that I don't think I've ever really accomplished before with any of my projects. And I guess I could see that actually. I think I do. That's like the thing I'm maybe best at overall. Hopefully, as evidenced by this great interview surrounded by children.
Yeah, I mean, the show is going to have some glaring holes in it, but no, we'll. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen any of your stand-up yet, so for me, it's always will be podcaster because I mean, for me, I think it's podcaster or stand-up.
Yeah,
comedian. To define your awesome thing.
Yeah. Comedy is the thing I would like to be awesome at. That's like my goal, I guess.
And I mean, like I said, I haven't seen it, but I mean, you're still doing it.
I've been doing it for 3 years.
Yeah, is it 3 years?
Yeah,
already?
almost 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're still doing it, and that's a positive thing.
Yeah.
So and that's where like in 3 years, I hope I'm still doing this show because that will be the longest streak for me.
Yeah.
And because I would love for podcasting to be my thing because more than anything, I love to talk, obviously, and filmmaking may I think filmmaking for me to get into it is more so just another means to have a voice.
Yeah.
Whether it be literally filming a movie as my voice or touring it. Like I would love to tour a movie more so than release it. Like that's what I plan on the movie that I'm writing now.
That would be your release plan.
Yeah, that is my release plan because
tour.
it's going to. I don't plan on selling the movie.
Right.
If anything, I look at it as like a kind of a business card to do the movie that I want to that we want to do that needs money.
It's the El Mariachi model.
So yeah, there is real no end to this show except to basically say thanks for coming on.
Yeah, dude.
Thanks for being the first guest to this show.
I really like podcasting with you, man.
Yeah. I wish we had more time to do it.
It's fine.
But I think I'm glad that this is actually going to end up being a two-parter.
That's good
because I think we've been recording for at least 2 hours.
Great.
If not an hour.
Once you whittle it down, it'll be a whole half hour long.
I think we'll get some good time out of it. So we post show we'll have to record some bumpers just in case. But I think this is something that there's going to be few guests that are multiple guests on this show.
I would love to come back and do
this is definitely
just because we can catch up on movies.
Exactly, because most of this show was us catching up. It was very little interview. And that's what I like about talking with with guys like you is that it is going to be very conversational and it's going to be very like just catch up and like
I would rather have a conversation than be like I'm fucking listen, I do all this great comedy that nobody is seeing and everybody listen to my great thoughts about fuck I have no interest in that. I'd rather talk about a good movie I saw.
And for me, like, part of this show is not only letting you kind of dictate what you want to talk about, but it's also like, for either your audience to learn more about you.
Yeah.
Like maybe, on movie, I like to movie.
Yeah, we don't talk too much about ourselves.
But that's something that like I want to bring to your audience and bring to my audience, and maybe they come to your show.
Yeah.
And maybe your audience comes to my show.
Yeah.
But
your audience should come to my show, by the way. We need more people to come see movie live.
And I think what we should do is once we have like this fully operational and we get our newsletter up and running, is like we need to have I like to movie live is the official.
Yeah, it's called movie live.
Movie live. Have like a meetup of
totally.
all our audiences there because I
would love to do that. That'd be great.
Yeah, because it's something I want to go to for sure. I think I'm going to make a commitment to be there for the Star Wars one.
Yeah,
because that's something that will truly interest me.
I don't have I'll plug that really quick. I don't have an official date. It's the second or third Wednesday in December. At Philomoka, which is at 12th and Spring Garden in Philadelphia. It's the hardest place to find, which is why nobody ever comes. But it's actually an amazing venue. It's really great for what we do, and it's going to be a huge Star Wars celebration, and that we can't officially call Star Wars Celebration because that exists.
Yes.
So it's going to be a lot of fun. I highly recommend people come out and see it.
And I think one of my goals with bringing podcasting back into my life is to become a panelist on one of your.
Oh, you could totally do that, man.
Love.
Yeah.
If I need to get the name of the show right first.
I will say that might be the thing I am proudest of most. I've always wanted to be a game show host.
Yeah,
I
remember
shows.
you talking about that back in the
love
day.
Game shows, and I have now made my own, and I host my own, and it's the funniest, coolest, biggest thing I've ever done. It's very cool.
So I think that's one of my goals with podcasting now is to be a panelist on that show. I missed out on Facebook responding to a Man of Steel request you had because it could be a whole nother podcast between us.
Oh my God.
But it's not good. I don't like it.
Oh, finally someone's on my side. This could be the best. I have no one on my side ever about this, but God, that movie is just a big bunch of baloney, I say to the child. Big bunch of baloney.
I will say that I appreciate... No,
you don't.
I don't think I even say that. I was able to find a positive to it at one point, but it is... Let's save that for the next one. Let's
try not to shit on movies.
Let's
poop on films. I'm trying to be classy in front of the kid. I try not to defecate on moving pictures, but that one is deserving of defecation.
We'll make a commitment that the next time we get together, we'll talk about
Man of Steel,
Man of Steel because it is a hard film.
Man of shit, I say.
So that being said, I developed my sign-offs on air.
Oh, hold on, you got to plug, man. You always got to remember to plug at the end,
true.
especially if the point of the show is, hey, you're awesome.
Yeah.
Where are you awesome?
Where are we awesome? We are awesome on awesomepodcast.com. Twitter, we're trying to secure that Twitter still.
Uh-huh.
So you can hit us on Twitter at That Entertains. You can hit me up directly at HHWST. Let's repeat that so that it's fluent. At HHWST. God damn it.
You're terrible at this.
I'm terrible. I haven't plugged in a long time.
Recommendations for after your
Let's
first
start
episode.
Over. So the plugs, my friend. Awesomepodcast.com is where you can find this show. You can also find us on Twitter at That Entertains. You can find me directly at HHWST. My guest, Garrett Smith, the first ever Everything is Awesome guest. You cannot take that away from yourself. That's your title now.
That's great. I love it. Here, can I plug myself?
Yes.
I feel like that's easiest. I'm on Twitter at Filmadelphia. That's with an F, F-I-L-M, Adelphia. You can find me on letterboxd.com/Filmadelphia. You can read all my movie reviews there. I review everything I watch, even if it's the 18th time I'm seeing it. You can find our podcast on iTunes. It's called I Like to Movie. And then everywhere on social media, we are /I Like 2, the number 2, I Like 2 movie. So at I Like To Movie on Twitter, Facebook.com/I Like To Movie. We post about all our events there. We do the live show, the game show, and we post our podcasts up there. I think that's it. I think that's. I host an open mic in Philadelphia called We Do every Tuesday night at Medusa Lounge. You can come see me and a bunch of my friends do comedy every Tuesday there. And I'm all over Philadelphia doing comedy all the time. Come find me.
Excellent. I hope to come see you do stand up.
You should come see me do stand up.
I'm definitely going to come to at least the next movie.
I tell
live.
a really, really nerdy Planet of the Apes joke that very specific audiences get on board with. It's like one of my favorite things to do because I can tell who the nerd in the audience is because they're the only one that knows all the titles of those movies, which is what the joke becomes. That was a terrible thing. I don't know why I said that. It was like really boring and not interesting.
We won't cut it out.
Yeah.
All right. So that has been Everything is Awesome. What are you breaking? No, you can't sign the table. You can give the marker to Garrett, though.
What does he have all over his ear?
That headphone is apparently falling apart. You can draw on the leg. Oh, yeah, you wear that. What are you doing? Okay. So, thank you for being awesome, Garrett.
Dude, of course, yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yes, this has been an awesome night.
Yeah, this has been fun.
I can't wait to do it again next
good to
time.
catch up
There will
with
be,
you, yeah.
definitely. This is something that I hope to. Maybe we'll have you on once a quarter,
Sure,
if not more.
Yeah,
it's all on your schedule.
Sure,
really.
I know.
Yeah, it's all on your schedule. That's
my schedule is ridiculous.
You only can like things.
You should see my calendar for the rest of the week, dude.
I'm
it's
sure
like
it's busy.
yeah.
So again, thank you for being on the show. We hope to have you back as soon as possible. And you have been listening to Everything is Awesome right here, only on awesomepodcast.com.
Now, real quick, before we let you go, because all those plugs that past Kev and past Garrett gave to you, maybe a little outdated. All the Twitters and social media feeds and stuff, they're all accurate. However, the movie live edition of Star Wars happened in December, and we recorded this about a month before that. So that's a little outdated. But next week, February 17th, is Movie Live High as a Kite edition, 7:30 p.m. at Philamoka, right in Philadelphia. So come on down. Dan will be there. Dan Scully, Garrett Smith will be there. I'm going to be there. A whole bunch of people are going to be there. I'm going to try to get Mike from That's Entertainment and Tellus to come on down. And I'm telling you, if you haven't read my review about the Movie Live Star Wars edition, go to That's Entertainment. No, well, you can go to That's Entertainment on Facebook, That Entertains on Twitter, or thatentertains.com. And you can read my review there. That does it very little justice. It is such a unique experience, and they change it up every show from one edition to the next. This one is their Stoner Movie edition, High as a Kite edition. So come on down, 7:30 p.m. to Philamoka in Philadelphia, and enjoy a very fun, interactive, where you could probably win some prizes, game show called Movie Live from I Like to Movie and Garrett Smith and Dan Scully. We'll see you next week right here on awesomepodcast.com.